بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله على آله وصحبه ومن تبع هداه. أخونا الدكتور مهند, it's a pleasure, it's an honor to be here with you. I appreciate the opportunity.
حياك الله شيخنا, بارك الله فيك.
وإياكم وإياكم. We got connected in the most interesting way. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward our brother, Dr. Ahmed Ghanim.
Actually, the way we got connected needs a reflection by itself. Because, alhamdulillah, sometimes we focus so much on the how can I complete my steps, and we don't put emphasis on the why. If you do the inner work, the why, the ikhlas, the sincerity, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will find ways to connect us. So alhamdulillah, in person, doesn't have to be online.
Yes. Alhamdulillah. So alhamdulillah, it's an honor again to be here. May Allah reward our brother for connecting us and helping us, to help each other benefit the ummah. Allahumma ameen. So I'll give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to our audience, and so we can continue this wonderful conversation, inshallah.
Okay, حياك الله. أخوكم Mohannad Hakim, originally from Lebanon, came to the US in 2005 to study engineering, PhD in engineering, did actually bachelor, master's, PhD in mechanical engineering. Guided by some mentors, teachers that, hey, if you're good in math or physics, go to engineering. That was the kind of the guidance back then. But the parallel life, the metaverse, the other metaverse was always involved in community work, Boy Scouts, service. In Lebanon, we have a lot of causes to serve.
MashaAllah,
not like, subhanAllah, that was the nature of the Muslim word. Allah يعين أهلنا يعني هناك.
Allahumma ameen ya Rabb. Allahumma ameen.
So that has always been a recurring theme. We go to university, and it's not our muscles, not our strength. Allah puts us in environments where there is service, there is a MSA, there is events, there is lectures, there's debates. So alhamdulillah, this has been a recurring theme that has been accompanying us. And then in the US, I did my PhD in engineering, got married, alhamdulillah, one kid after the other. Now there are 4 kids, alhamdulillah. Ages ranging from 16 to 7. So alhamdulillah, I have a busy life inside the house, but alhamdulillah, outside the house, I did worked at Ford Motor Company for 10 years. And so I was control engineer, software engineer. So alhamdulillah, things were going, progressing on the career side, and also on the community side. I had the pleasure to serve as a youth director in some masajid, board member, khatib, imam, speaker, trainer, all that stuff. Recently, I'm doing life coaching, and I think the term life coaching is what connected us.
Yes,
subhanallah,
that's for sure.
because this is a newly found way of doing impact. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I am also I had the honor to compile 40 hadith collection, the 40 hadith on community service and activism. So yeah, this is basically an overview of the interest I'm passionate about. And I think what connected us is, and inshallah, how can somebody make small shifts in their career so that you don't end up wasting a lot of time trying to follow your purpose and passion and vision and serve the ummah. I think this is kind of this topic both of us are very interested in. And alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah khairan for a wonderful conclusive introduction for all the hats, or as the brothers would say, for all the kufis that we wear. Mashallah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So a quick introduction for me as well. I think we got to learn about each other in a little bit of a surface level. So I'm gonna give a quick introduction for me as well. So I grew up in Egypt for, mashallah, alhamdulillah, a practicing family. My parents were always pushing us to make sure that our deen is a priority, making sure that we are helping our ummah and living a life of purpose. So that's where it all started. I studied in Azhar University, studying simultaneous translation, English, Arabic, English, with a minor in French. And I actually started a student organization at Al Azhar University as a co-founder. It's called Spread Your Skills. and we were doing exactly what I'm doing as a profession right now.
Wow.
So I'm currently working as a career coach at UMKC, as you know. So
No.
we do resumes, cover letters, workshops in the classroom, helping students figure out their career life. That's what I did back in 2010 and 2009, 2010, 2011, and 2012 at Al Azhar University.
So the seed was planted in Al Azhar, and
Yep.
subhanAllah, the fruits were here in Kansas City.
Believe it or not, the brother who actually encouraged me to study abroad and get to learn more about that field so I can do it professionally, he did a study abroad program at Mizzou
Subhanallah.
in 2011, right? And he was the inspiration for us to start that organization, Spread Your Skills. Abdullah Amir, may Allah give him barakah in everything that he does.
Ameen, Allah.
So he encouraged me to come study in the US, came studied the human resources management and communication in my bachelor degree, studied the Master of Business Administration with a focus on organizational development.
No.
Worked at my alma mater, North Central College, with suburbs of Chicago, and then worked at the University of Chicago as well. Worked at a community college, right?
All within the same.
So student services and mainly career services as well. So at Hawkeye Community College up in Northern Iowa, I was part of the career services office. And
No.
then right now I'm working with the career services team at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, which is the same Mizzou system.
Subhanallah. Yeah.
So subhanallah, it's things are connected in the most interesting way. So our topic today, the life design. How can you design your life in a way that is purposeful, fulfilling, right? A lot of the younger youth, I want to say high schoolers, college students, they might be choosing their own career, or a career might be forced down their throat, right?
No.
Or there's a lot of challenges. You know, how can you choose a career that's halal, right? So
No.
we want to talk about that design thinking, and how can we go through the steps that can help these young youth in the Muslim community here in the U.S. to be living a life that's purposeful and a life that's fulfilling, and at the same time they are able to serve the ummah in general as well.
Subhanallah. Very deep question. We can barely scratch the surface, inshallah,
Yes.
but again, at least we can start. So you mentioned when we talk about life design, it's interesting that you refer to your previous experience, and me and you talked about it offline, that working, when we are trying to do something in a secular paradigm, we feel that something is not aligned with our principles.
No.
Even if we're, so first of all, job has to be halal, of course.
No.
That's a no-go for any Muslim. Of course, nobody would want to work in a Budweiser to sell beer, advertise. So there are some clear guidelines, but also within the halal, there's a spectrum of choices that good, better, best kind of paradigm. And many Muslims, or I would say many young professionals, they're feeling that they are misfit. They're feeling that this career does not match their expectations.
No.
And there's so many reasons to this. This goes beyond Muslim community. It's a worldwide problem.
No.
People feel like they're a cog in a machine of the corporate world, because all of this educational system was designed to produce cogs in a machine. So
Yes.
it's not a mistake. It's
Uh-huh.
designed to be like that.
No.
If you look up, and I'm trying not to be philosophical here, but if you go back to the origins of productivity system right now, input over output.
No.
It was all started by somebody, I think, called Sir Francis Taylor, who was trying to optimize workers who were working in steel factories and
Production lines.
Production line, exactly. So all of our measures of productivity and many of the theories we study in human resources and even time management, it's all this Taylorism. This is almost as a madhab by itself in productivity that makes people soulless. They're just working, grinding to get more output. They're working for the man.
No.
So, of course, as Muslims, we understand, we take a step back and say, hey, my career is part of my continuous or complete or holistic vision to my ultimate purpose. And my ultimate purpose, we can keep going like about the ayat. And you mentioned multiple ayat about, the life design inspired by a Muslim, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I did not create mankind and jinns except to worship me.
نعم.
So this is
نعم.
worship, and of course
SubhanAllah.
worship on multiple levels. The ayat when Allah told the angels, إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. It
نعم.
was clear when Allah told the angels that I will put this caretaker on earth, that Allah had a plan, and this caretaker is not only somebody who worships
نعم.
and does dhikr, because the angels are better than
نعم.
the humans.
the
So I think the question is, how can you fit a spiritual model that seems fuzzy to some and seems very abstract? How can you fit it to the cog in the machine?
نعم.
And is there a common ground? Are we talking about balance, or is it a completely destroy the current system? And like there's all kinds of ways you can do.
Yeah.
So I like to think about life design in Islam as I call it afterlife insurance. There's a life insurance policy that halal or haram, that's not my discussion. Afterlife insurance, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ gave us a very easy recipe
نعم.
when it comes to life design, and you will see how career is part of it. إذا مات ابن آدم انقطع عمله إلا من ثلاث. When the son of Adam dies, their deeds will stop to exist except three opportunities: صدقة جارية, continuous charity, beneficial knowledge, and the righteous son who will make dua for him or daughter. And if you think about it, there's an interesting statement by Stephen Covey who talks about life design.
Yep.
And of course, there's a lot of synergies in the way we work, the books that we read and what have you. When he talks about planning your life effectively is to think about how you are going to live, love, learn, leave a legacy. So the live, love, learn, leave a legacy. And the way I like to think about it is like life design is all about planting the right seeds.
نعم.
So you have the live seed,
Yes.
which is to earn a living.
نعم.
How are you going to earn a living? In what capacity?
نعم.
And the love seed, which is your spouse, marriage, relationships, but also your family, your
نعم.
mother and father, and the community. The learn seed, your intellectual sphere, and the leave a legacy, which is spiritual sphere. So subhanAllah, I feel that the hadith and the statement, there's a lot of synergy between them, because the sadaqah jariyah is technically the best outcome of a live seed. Like you cannot have a sadaqah jariyah if you don't have the right money. The ilm ينتفع به is the learned seed. The walad salih yad'u lahu, the son or daughter who will make dua for you is basically the love, the fruit of that love. So I like to think about when we try to ask questions, and we'll come to the career. The question is, how can this career become the biggest sadaqah jariyah for me? Which could be there's a book called The Body of Work, which is summarizing what is the outcome, how are you going to measure your life, which is another name for another book. Technically, what's the product? What am I leaving to mankind? So, subhanallah, all of these are questions that one should be asking. But again, alhamdulillah, nowadays in 2024 and Allah alam and beyond, we need to be asking the question, are there some frameworks that we can take that spiritual energy and perspective from Islam and use it so that we can, as quickly and efficiently as possible, identify where can I leave the biggest impact? Because, and I would love to explore that model that you shared with me. This is a very interesting model. The last thing I wanted to mention is that we have a limited time on earth, and we have limited time in our career. So if you think about it, there's a book called 80,000 Hours, and 80,000 hours is the amount of hours one of us can spend in a career. You have almost 2,000 hours per year, times 40 years in a career, that's 80,000 hours. So now I am in my mid-career, I'm in my 40s, so I don't have a lot of time left. So 80,000 hours, and that book actually, and that body of work is trying to help professionals, not necessarily Muslims, align their career with their impact. And there's a lot of synergy between that book and the design thinking that
wonderful.
Yeah.
Jazakumullah khair. I love that you are mentioning some of the resources, some of the authors, the books, and all of this. These are some of the things that our youth might take from this conversation and try to do further research.
I started doing this work after I finished my PhD.
Allahu Akbar.
And I realized, hey, maybe you should start doing this at an earlier stage. But I didn't get these resources. So if you're listening to this and you're early on, before 12 years of studying in a field, I love engineering, but it's not, again, you can always do things. The earlier you can do it, you can access some of these books. Wallahi, you'll save yourself and the ummah a lot of time.
Indeed, I 100% agree. I want to bring us back to the design life. MashaAllah, wonderful insights. Jazakumullah khairan for sharing. So I want to bring us back to the design thinking. And design thinking itself, when it started, it was mainly talking about products and services, right?
Yeah.
How to look at a product or a service and then kind of try to think about it, do prototypes, do tests, right?
Yeah.
But then the authors of this book or this the Design Your Life Lab that's in Stanford University now started to think, okay, the most thing that we can invest on is designing our life,
Yeah.
right? So when they started thinking about that, right, they started thinking about, okay, as we're going about our life, there is these dysfunctional beliefs, and we see these dysfunctional beliefs vivid in the conversations that we have with our youth. You have somebody, for example, being told you should know your passion by now, right? There's that idea of passion, like this is something is gonna be like, something that you might dream of, and then like it's right there.
Inspiration.
Or you'll meet with your career counselor at your school, and then you'll have a conversation, you'll take an assessment, and boom, they have a magic stick that will tell you what is your passion, right? So how would the youth deal with this dysfunctional belief? How would they go about reframing their mindset in a way that helps them actually discover what they want to do, in a way that aligns with their belief, in a way that, again, connects them to a life of purpose, and connecting their deen and their career life together, centering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the middle, right? We talked about وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. How can we work in our connecting the dots in a way that everything could be ibadah, right? The scholars talk about how can you change your niyyah in everything to make it a ibadah, right? But before we get to changing our niyyah, how can I choose something that can provide to the afterlife insurance, the policy that you talked about, all of this. So how can they work on these dysfunctional beliefs?
SubhanAllah. First of all, the idea of destroying evil and falsehood before building right and truth is a deep Islamic concept. La ilaha illallah. In our aqidah, we destroy belief in every other god with a small g, and then we confirm and affirm the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this idea is so important that And this should help our youth who are confused, or our midlife career professionals who were at once confused. This should help us understand you should not feel guilty because you don't know your passion, and if you're in your early 20s or 30s or 40s, you are a victim of a system that's meant to persuade you and confuse you. So don't feel guilty if you don't know what's your passion. That's number one. Number two, follow your passion, I feel, is like kalimatu haqq urida biha batil. It's a nice statement, but who's showing this statement? Is it corporate who are trying to align your passion with their vision so that they can make money, better money out of you, and you become a better cog in the machine? So that's something that we have to understand, to ask ourselves. The third question I ask also is, if my passion is ice cream, should I sell ice cream? Like this advice is so it's like putting emotions. When people say love first or love above all, it's putting emotions, which is a temporary thing, putting it as the center. And we've seen what happens in our Muslim tradition when people put love above everything. Like love is the ultimate value that should be respected. Who said that? Love is sometimes a temporary reaction. So when it comes to career, it's so hard. It's really building. It's really building an unrealistic expectation of, like, people should know, as you said, their passion. So it's good to filter from this advice, because all of this grit advice that we're seeing right now, it's detrimental. We think bad social media is when there's a bad scene or a bad language or some violent movie or whatever. These are the bad influences. No, actually, subhanAllah, when it comes to the self-help and the life coaching industry and the inspiration industry, there's a lot of bad advice out there. And that's part of it. Wallahu alam. So instead of follow your passion, my friend Omar Osman has this article, follow your purpose, not your passion. Because following the purpose, and you'll see in your life design, inshallah, as we explore it, the passion will be built when you start fulfilling your purpose. It's a byproduct. It's not the main. Again, as you said, Allah is first.
Yes.
How can I expect as a Muslim that I want to put my passion as at the center of my goals. It's a very scary thought.
Yes,
It's a very
yes.
anti-Islamic thought.
Yes.
Wallah
Yeah.
alam, but again, without going into
Div, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Jazakumullah khairan. Yeah, this is wonderful. You know, I remember when we were going through the training with the Design Your Life Lab, we started by writing a paragraph. That was our homework before we come to the training. We wrote 2 paragraphs. One was, what does work? What's your life vision?
Yeah.
Right? And what's your work vision? That was our homework, and it took me some time to actually put it in paper, right? Sometimes we are living in a tornado kinda.
Yeah.
You going in the same cycle. You're
No.
not thinking about what you're doing. You know, we hear that even in the nasiha that we get from our scholars. You know, you go into your salah, it became a routine thing. You know,
No.
you finish the salah, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. There is so that when I started writing these, it made me think. What am I doing? How am I connecting the dots? How am I linking my career to my life purpose?
No.
Right? And that's what the dysfunctional belief here comes to destroy, that connection. It makes you just join the cycle right away
No.
and be part of that routine, a life of routine of a production line that we talked about in the beginning, right? So a reframe that we came across is for this dysfunctional belief that, hey, you have to figure out your passion, right? Let's say I meet with a student, I don't have a passion. Well, go back, figure out your passion, and come back to me. How can I help? I'm not helping them as a career coach or a life coach, right? So usually you would say engagement comes first, passion follows, right? So
Jameel.
they have to engage with professionals in the field, right? They have to engage with the workforce. They have to engage with the ulama and the mashayikh of their community, the leadership, the elders of their community, and talk to them. Learn about how to align their life along with their career life, you know, to center Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the middle as well, right?
No.
And that's when it comes to, okay, when you serve your community, you're worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you go to work having the niyyah that I'm trying to provide a better life for myself and my family, you're worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
No.
So this is the dysfunctional beliefs that sometimes we need to destroy first before we need to start building anything. The Design Your Life Lab transitions in the process itself transitions into, okay, let's think about the possibilities, right? And they talk about building odysseys or plans, and they mention specifically that you need to design at least 3 possible plans. Because
like 3 possible scenarios for your
Yes.
future self.
Exactly. Because sometimes when we think about, okay, what's the possibility, just one, we are very limiting to ourselves. But they mention at least 3 because by theory, that helps you explore more, right? And have more constructive ideas. So these odysseys, sometimes we say in the odyssey planning, the Design Your Life Lab would tell you that you need to think about, okay, what is the possibility if there is no limitations? So what if you have all the money that you need, and what if you have nobody will judge you
based on your career choice?
Exactly.
Which is the 2 primary reasons why people go into a career they don't like.
Exactly. Yeah. So how would you advise our youth when they come to the ideation piece of trying to ideate and think about what are these 3 possible ways? How would you advise them in that process? Right? I can, again, linking it to the first process, which is linking it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah.
SubhanAllah. So this brings me to the discussion. You mentioned the Odysseys. So again, Odyssey is a 5-year plan. And that the Design Your Life Lab, if I remember correctly, will help the students chart for themselves. One of them assuming that you are going in your life as is, like just transport yourself in life 5 years down the road without any change, without any, you're going with the flow. You're going on autopilot.
Yes.
And I think the second one is a second path where you have to do the second most appealing thing to you. And the third one is if there's no money or reputation are not at stake for choosing the life that you like. If we, the interesting part, and I've had many discussions with many people have no idea what their future self is. So they are living the present based on decisions that was made in the past. These decisions could be social scripting.
Yeah.
His aunt telling his mom one day that I heard that engineering is a good thing for your son, and it stuck. Or I heard that this career makes more money, or this career
Yes.
makes me marry the best girl in the community.
Yes.
Because that's a part of it.
Yes, it is.
So social scripting is so real that makes people live the past. And some people, they might be 30, 40 years old and they're still living in high school days. They're still hearing the day, the discussion in high school. So I think that, so we need to start thinking about the future self.
Yeah.
And I remember one of my students, he was very uncomfortable when I asked him this question. What do you think is going to happen 1 year from now? And what do you think the future self will tell you? What do you think your future self, like next year, at this time, in February 2025, what do you think the future self will make dua for you? إذا الله أحيانا. So that brother was very uncomfortable. He's so stuck in the here and now, and it's very hard for him to even dream. And so the first part is to start dreaming in a not in a hallucination, daydreaming way, but no, in a real sense that I'm making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What if Allah told you you can get whatever you want? You are standing on the Jabal of Arafat, making dua, or Laylat al-Qadr, and Allah told you just take from whatever treasures you want. But you need to be ready with the right ask, if you get that moment. And this takes us to the work of Sheikh Muhammad Sharif, rahmatullah alayh, the body of work, the visionary mindset, the idea that when you make dua, don't make dua with a scarcity mindset. You're not asking someone who's going to send you a small paycheck.
Kareem.
It's Al-Kareem subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you have to know what you want.
Exactly.
So back to the Odyssey plans, and when somebody wants to plan for their lives, you have to plan with abundance mindset. Understanding that you're asking from Al-Kareem, and you have to think big. And thinking big does not mean that you're not happy with what Allah has given you. It comes hand in hand. But I'm thinking big, my intention, and by intention I don't mean wishful thinking, I mean intention. I'm putting the intention, I'm working hard, and I'm grinding and putting the work, while having big dreams. And I know that Allah is rewarding me on my intentions and dreams, whether I achieve them or not. So I think this changes a lot. I think this odyssey and journey for Muslims, and this imagination, it's a very rewarding experience for Muslims, because you start understanding, you start realizing that, hey, you might be in the wrong career, you might be affected by someone else's social scripting, which is not really you. So there's a lot to say on this regards, but my point is reflect, journal, dua. Reflect, journal, dua, and our to-do list will become a to-dua list.
Allah Akbar.
Because for us, journey number 1 or 2 or 3, your life plan, you cannot achieve it by yourself. Allah has to help you. And that's another major difference between the Muslim operating system, the Barakah operating system, and the secular mindset, is that in the secular mindset there is an added bloated belief in the self, that it's me, it's my power, it's my, and if they don't achieve, they feel bad. Whereas for Muslims, we understand that results come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Allah Akbar. Jazakallah khair. This is wonderful. This specific step about ideation and thinking about the possibilities, it becomes the hardest step sometimes. For the students. This is when the youth, most of our youth gets stuck, right? We have multiple resources that they can look at. So, for example, I am remembering a few of the resources. There is a website called ownit.org. Ownitonline.org, to be specific, ownitonline.org. This website collects the information about any possible career in the US through the Department of Labor Statistics, and it lists every single job. What does it mean? What are you going to be doing in that job? Skills and technical skills, soft skills needed in that job. And then it talks about salary, a potential growth for that job. So this is one resource that could be helpful. As well, it connects it to professional associations, so you can talk to some people in the field, right? The ideation transforms into testing, which we'll talk about later. But I want to just stop here about that step right here. You mentioned something wonderful in your speech earlier today. I was listening to the live streaming, And you mentioned something that stuck with me. You mentioned something about building a habit, right? Instead of taking on the motivation or relying on the motivation. We're talking about Ramadan. You're not gonna just take that speech and this is the motivation, and that's it. By the time Ramadan starts, that motivation will go away. So how can you be sustainable? How can you build a habit? Right. So I'm gonna take that quote. I want to apply it to that specific step. When we talk about ideation, right? Some of the reasons that, from my personal opinion, that our youth gets stuck is we need results right now. I need to figure it out right now. We don't understand that this is a process that takes a lot of thinking, a lot of work, and some research until you get to, okay, this is what I want to do, right? So how can we build habits? What are some of the recommendations that you might have for the youth, to build habits, right, to achieve that decision making, right? To have that, long-term thinking in building towards making the decision, rather than, okay, I need the decision right now.
Awalan, Jazakallah khair for applying what we are saying on us first and foremost. So even following the design thinking process, we should not follow it as a cog in the machine. Because we're not automatic. We're not going through the motions of, hey, step 1 finished, go to step number 2. Everything that is human related, long-term related, you cannot apply materialistic, smart objectives, specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, timely. No, it doesn't work this way. You need to give it its time. That does not mean that we're lazy. Does not mean that we are pushing it away. But as you said, there's a process. So first of all, detach from results. I think this idea of expecting things right away, instant gratification, does not work. Number 2, don't feel guilty and shamed for not finding an answer that will fulfill your aunt asking, so what are you going to do when you grow? Because I'll be honest, I'm 43 right now, and it's hard for me to explain to people what I'm doing right now. So what if I'm talking to my mother-in-law, so what do you do, Habibi? I'm a life coach. What does life coach mean? Why did you leave your PhD in engineering to become a life coach? So it becomes, although hopefully I'm confident in my choice. I've been through a lot of iterations, but it's hard to explain to people what you really want. And let's say you know what you want exactly. It's hard to say it in words. So I would say that first and foremost, don't worry about answering people. You can always come up with an answer that will maybe inspire the conversation, or maybe you can flip the question on them. They call it the porcupine method in sales. Instead of them throwing that porcupine at you, throw it back at them. What do you suggest that I should do? So I would say, looking back at what makes people make wrong choices, make sure that to remove social pressure from the equation.
Yes.
So if you remove 100%. It, you are more likely to make better choices. That's number 1. Number 2, don't think about a career in a tunnel vision, meaning that if you choose one career right now, you will be stuck in it for life. With the exception of few careers, and I'll be honest, medicine is one of them. So those brothers and sisters who go to the medical field, you better do this life design as soon as possible, and make sure that you don't leave any stone unturned in your decision making. And why did you choose this? Statistically speaking, I think 60 to 70% of medical doctors are among the highest percentage of people who are stuck in their career. They feel like they cannot move forward. So again, maybe I cannot give people advice what to do, but we can tell them what not to do. Which is avoid social pressure, detach from the outcome. But also back to the don't rely on motivation, rely on habits. There are some habits that are very important, such as the habit of reading without expecting any direct action item right now. Just read for insights, not for information. A good book for teens is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens.
100%.
That's a good book that's well written, and it has some activities that one can do for the journey. Another also tip when it comes to routines, think about it as a work in progress, again, not as a final version. So you can say, I'm working on my career, I'm version 1.0 in my career. And then there's a software update, the version 2.0. Because our world that we live in is very dynamic. And they are textbooks that are completely obsolete right now.
No.
I can chain them with LLM, ChatGPT model
Yes.
that will replace that textbook.
No.
So even if assuming I had a passion for certain major or field or field of science,
No.
do you really want to go there if you believe that a code, an algorithm can replace you? I'm not scaring people, but I'm just saying I don't expect in your that you if you start somewhere that you will finish in the same career, because that's a very linear way of thinking, and human beings are always linear thinkers in a very non-linear world. So I think expectation has to be set right. Last thing, wallahi, al-rizq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Indeed.
It's there's a statement that so you're talking to somebody who got laid off from I think I told you I got laid off from my Ford corporate job 6 or 7 months ago. And subhanallah, Allah planned that I invested in a life coaching program and a productivity program, and now that's why I shifted my career there. But I'm in a very financial from a financial standpoint, I'm in a very unstable position in my life. May Allah give rizq to everyone who's in need, and help our brothers who are struggling and who don't have what we have, which is the opportunity. Back to the Odyssey. What do you do if money was not an issue? In theory, if we are doing hard, if we're working hard, if we're tying our camel, rizq is not an issue.
Yeah, you're right.
Because during the last 6 months, one thing that I observed, alhamdulillah, many people helped, the community, many brothers, they showed their help and what have you. But I felt the hadith, wallahi, the one that says, that one, which is one of my favorite hadith, but also, لو أن ابن آدم هرب من رزقه كما يهرب من الموت لأدركه رزقه كما يدركه الموت. You know, if the son of Adam will escape, will run away from the rizq, as we run away from death, our rizq will come to us, will meet us, exactly as death will come to us and meet us. And of course, all of us are chasing after our rizq, and we're running away from death. But the fact is, both are getting at us. And one of them will come before the other. And we ask Allah al-afiyah wa salama. But really, back to your hadith, that the birds that the Prophet ﷺ told us, and maybe you should have this visual in the life design, the Muslim life design, that be like a bird. What are the wings that you will be flapping? The wings of planning and rigor and odyssey and reading and reflection and mentorship. But part of the process is mentorship. Make sure that you are surrounded by the right people and the right coaches who will challenge your beliefs. Honestly, if you need somebody who's really truthful, you should not. You might hate them. Because they might challenge your belief system and what have you. So anyway, these birds, they are flying continuously. If they stop, they die. And I don't think we should stop, chasing for our dreams. But also they are confident that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Razzaq.
SubhanAllah.
SubhanAllah.
This is a beautiful insight, a beautiful reminder. I want to, before we move on from that ideation piece as well, sometimes some of the youth will get stuck on problems that is more of a circumstance rather than a problem, right?
Like a gravity problem?
Yes, a gravity problem, as we title it as a gravity problem. And we think we're stuck because of that. So how would you reframe that? Sometimes we come across a problem. Okay, I know there is racism in the workforce. Right, and I don't want to do this job because I know it's dominantly not my race. Therefore, I'm not gonna do it.
Or it's not for women; it's for men.
Yeah, there's that too. So, what would you advise the students or the youth when it comes to dealing with these gravity problems? How would they, going back to the idea of rizq, how to have that complete taslim, submission, right, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I know, this is my qadar, right? How can I move on and do my best with the circumstance that I have without having to try to fix that problem and make it the center of my life? I'm not saying, okay, this is a problem, leave it aside. No, if this is a societal problem and you can contribute to solving the problem, go ahead and do that. But don't let that be the major hurdle that makes you stuck from fulfilling that career that you're willing to or passionate about, and you can't reach it. So, like, generally, my question is, what would be your advice for the youth when it comes to these gravity problems?
No, subhanallah. So let me just make sure that I understand the terms properly. So ideation is a phase in the life design where you are trying to put as many ideas as possible.
Exactly.
So it's good to be wrong on having more ideas, not less ideas.
Exactly.
And the failure in this phase is if you have only one idea. If you're stuck at one point, I'm only doing this, I'm not doing anything else. So good ideation and a good coaching program for ideation is when the youth will imagine and dream about different futures, selves, basically. Not one, we're talking more than one. So that's ideation. Now, some of those ideations may be very unrealistic. And the question, if I want to rephrase it, is this unrealistic because of capability, something within my control?
No.
So it's unrealistic, but I can do it. For example, I'm not the best in math. I struggle to understand math. But if I can really take these 3 math courses back to back, I can. That's something within my reach. Or if there is a gravity problem, and by gravity problem, if gravity, the law of gravity, all of us can
perceive it.
All of us live it, and we cannot run away from it. And a gravity problem is a problem that you cannot solve no matter how much effort you can put.
No.
Bismillah. First advice is mentorship.
No.
Have somebody who's outside yourself, who can see the progress, and who you are sure you tested them. They can give you honest, sincere advice with no filters.
No.
Because you need that person, you need that coach, you need that teacher.
No.
And honestly, sometimes that is your parents.
No.
Sorry guys, but your parents know you more than you know yourself.
Yes.
So that's number one. Number two, you need to focus on the right metrics. So how do I know something is a gravity problem, something that no matter what I put effort, no matter what you put effort, you will not fly. Human beings without any wings, without any airplane. So that's what a gravity problem. So how do you know that something is a gravity problem? If you are measuring the right metrics, which is in the case of gravity, how much can I fly over the ground?
Yeah.
If I'm doing like this with my wings and I keep doing this for decades, I'm not gonna fly.
No.
Now, if I'm focusing on the motion of my hands, I could be fooled and say, hey, I might be flying. If I look at myself, I'm on the 2nd floor of this building, and I look at, hey, I might be flying because I'm looking at the wrong thing. So you have to focus on the right thing. So what would be the right things? In project management, they talk about lead measures versus lag measures.
Okay.
So the lag measures are the outcome goals. The lead measures are process goals.
No.
So you look at the process goals. So let me give you a very practical example. Somebody wants to study AI, computer science, wants to become a programmer.
No.
And yes, on one end, they should not tell themselves, I'm bad in programming, I should not do it, I should try.
No.
So, because I'm against people not trying. We want people to prototype,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
But how can someone know that computer science is not for them? If I seriously take one computer course, programming after the other, and I spend times, they talk about 10,000 hours to get mastery. I'm not saying 10,000 hours, which is like maybe 5 years.
No.
But somebody who takes 2 or 3 programming courses,
No.
and they try their best to complete projects and enhance and do things on their own, and if they're not enjoying it, no matter how hard they try, chances are, and this is good for parents, if you feel you're still pushing your kid to programming and they are not getting it, and they're struggling with it, they don't see themselves hanging online or in person around programmers, chances are this is a lead measure, this is a process measure, that this is not your thing. So if you might be flapping your wings without following the laws of physics, maybe that same effort, if you put it in a creative way, or I don't know, writing, journaling, or whatever, it could be a better return on the investment. So I would say if you measure the right thing, inshallah ta'ala, you will notice that there is progress.
No.
Whereas a gravity problem, by definition, is no matter how much input you put, there's no output.
Yes. I 100% agree. And I one thing that we sometimes forget is the one weapon that only the believers have, silah al-du'a, the weapon of du'a. Sometimes some of these gravity problems that we think about, we think, okay, this is gonna sink me in. I can't get nowhere without it. I need to move on. Okay, tawakkalna ala Allah. This is a realistic mindset. But as a believer, we need to also utilize the weapon of dua to try to get beyond this, whether that hay is gonna be solved, get solved, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help me get beyond this, right? I can't do this specific career because of this gravity problem. Therefore, I do istikhara, right? That's why we say, oh Allah, if this is khair for me, give it to me. If this is not khair for me, ثم ارضني به. Let it go away from me and give me that satisfaction in my heart, right? So, for the sake of time, I want to transition to something at the end that the life design talks about, the prototyping and the testing.
Just one thing, subhanAllah, about dua you mentioned. So dua is the weapon of the believer, and of course we are not saying dua in lieu of doing action, and that's not, of course, what you said.
Exactly.
It's really both. But we all know, so we have a simple equation in the productive Muslim model, whereas the outcome is the result of three things. One of them is free will, our effort, our work, plus natural laws, plus Allah's will. So you have human will, your effort, you working hard, and plus natural laws, which is like a gravity problem. If the gravity is pulling you down, then you cannot fly. No matter how much dua you can make, Allah, let me fly, you're not gonna, you know that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, it's Allah's will. And this is where istikhara is so critical, because again, after you put your hard work in, and I'm saying hard work, ya jama'ah, please. It's easy to blame our parents. It's easy to blame, astaghfirullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Oh, Allah doesn't want this for me. But where is the hard work? Sometimes there's a sense of entitlement. Let's be honest, you guys. I'm entitled to go to Stanford. I'm entitled to become an NBA player. But where's the... We're seeing the 3-hour movie, but we don't look at the 3 years that took in preparation for that movie. So subhanAllah, there's a lot of work. So istikhara is when you do your part, you align your part, your effort with the sunan, with the laws of the universe, and you delegate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I think this is where the dua will be part of your effort, not
of course,
on top of it.
You can't solely depend on the dua and think that the dua will be the thing that will get your goals achieved, right? 100% agree. But at the end of that process of life design, we gotta prototype the options that we think
materialized.
The odysseys that we thought about, right? We're gonna try to prototype it, and then we're gonna test it, right? So through that couple of steps, which I think it's there's a lot that we can talk about. The time is not serving us. So how can we kind of shed the light on both of these steps, giving the advice for the youth to try to test these things in a way that's as early as possible. Don't wait till college, for example, until you start thinking or talking to people or all of that. So what some pieces of advice that you can give to the youth to get into the prototyping stage and then the testing stage?
So I'm thinking about a specific example where the example was in the process of hacking, ethical hacking, of course, cybersecurity and all that stuff. So let's say that you are interested in this field and you want to grow into it. Okay, that's very good. One quick way to prototype it is to understand, test, do you have passion or do you have grit? Are you willing to learn it? Okay, guess what? There are 2-3 hours podcasts about ethical hackers who have done amazing things. How much do you know about it, Mr. Future software engineer or cybersecurity engineer? Sometimes we think prototyping is simply going and shadowing a doctor. And that's like the 80s model of prototyping or shadowing. Nowadays, everyone is online. Every profession on the face of earth, there is a version of it. There is a podcast, there is a Discord group, there is some long podcasts that are talking about the nitty-gritty details that me and you could find very boring, but an interested person, no matter how old they are, they will be very interested in. And this is a low-hanging fruit. I mean, sometimes in prototyping, and some of us are blaming their parents or the community or the life coach. Hey, why don't you give me access to X and Y and Z engineers at Meta so that I shadow them? There's a lot of work that needs to be done. And I'll be honest, on the Islamic field, I'm sure you got these youth who want to study overseas and they dream about going to Medina or Azhar or whatever to study. Akhi, the Quran, last time I checked, there's like 20 mushafs in your bedroom.
No.
Do you want to start by reading Quran, prototyping the Quran experience, the ilm journey
No.
At your local masjid?
No.
So sometimes, and again, wallahi, this is tough love. I have all,
Yes.
all empathy on our youngsters
Mhm.
that there's no entitlement here.
No.
You can prototype, you can learn a lot.
No.
And guess what? Once you learn, and once you watch this podcast and you meet those professionals and they know, and you tell them the boring details about this field, they will be impressed.
No.
They will be, okay, how can I hire you now?
Mhm.
Because nowadays is the age where there's no gatekeepers from any job. Anyone can become a programmer, a software engineer, a
Yeah.
YouTuber, a journalist. You just need a camera and you need passion and you need to know what you are doing.
No.
So prototyping has different forms. Shadowing people online, in person, joining these communities has become easier.
Mhm.
Yes, the internet is the wild west where many people are making wrong choices on who to follow, who to shadow.
Mhm.
But hey, it's open space for you. So be
Yeah.
creative. And back to the dua. The dua is telling us there's unlimited resources. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
No.
But also the internet, on the flip side, there's also unlimited resources for you to learn from these. So yeah, prototyping is there. The other examples, so other than learning the lifestyle and the language of the لغة المصلحة, the language of the art, there's also the idea of a side hustle.
Mhm.
And now now more than ever, if you live in a country where you can start earning money online to do a service, even if that service was like pennies, now it's much easier to do that. And that's a quick way to prove, does it work?
Mhm.
Is there interest for it? Because in general, a career is, simple definition, exchange of values.
No.
You're giving valuable work to someone else and they are paying you in return.
No.
Of course, normally it's more complicated,
No.
but having a side hustle where you are selling something, selling a service, it is a quick way to prototype it. And last but not least, again, back to the mentorship and the jama'ah and the community.
Yes.
There's huge resources in the community. You have, the community is full of gems, the Muslim community, whether
exactly.
online or your local community.
Yeah.
But we just have to ask the right questions. And you know how, I forgot who said this, maybe Bruce Lee, like when the student is ready, the teacher will show up.
Yes. 100%.
And
agree.
we're still waiting for the teacher, but we're not getting
not
ready as
ready.
students. And again, I'm talking about myself. I'm not,
Not anybody. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
I struggled with being ready as a student.
I get it.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah khairan for sharing this. I know when it comes to prototyping, yes, you kind of hit the point on what they need to do or what we need to do. We got to talk to professionals. We got to start with our community. Talk to people. Ask them about their story. Everybody's willing to talk to you about their story. If you invite them to a cup of coffee or invite them to a podcast here.
No.
Right?
Actually, subhanAllah. So I heard this from multiple sources this week. Everyone in the world is 6 connections away from you. So we have 8 billion people on earth. Everyone in the world is 6 connections away.
SubhanAllah.
And this documented over and over and over.
Nah.
So if you talk about the Muslim community, let's say in America or Canada or Egypt, how many? 100 millions?
Above 100 million, I think.
That was before the episode.
Yes.
Now it's more now.
I think we are above 110 million.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah.
May Allah protect our brothers and sisters.
Ameen, ya Allah. Ameen. So there is a lot of resources. Once you ask the right question, again, once you're ready, wallahi,
The teacher will show.
and Allah will make that connection.
Will make the tawfiq. Yeah,
Nah.
understanding that Allah has the plan and it will come at the right time.
Nah.
Wallahi, I can't tell you how many times, or for the longest time, I've been starting Ummah Career Lab for the longest time.
You told me about the Egypt, yeah.
Subhanallah, it started, the whole process started in Egypt. Me starting the student organization, this brother who come and studied at the same university, he might have been in this same building.
Allahu Akbar.
He's currently in Egypt. And then you see me right now, going through these certifications, the Life Design Lab. I just took that back in June of last year, right? And me constantly working on, for the long term to prepare all of that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, drops the people in your path
At the right time.
at the right time.
Because if
Right.
that connection was made 2 years ago, it wouldn't be as effective.
Exactly. I wouldn't have known about the Design Your Lab, and I know about career coaching and all of that, but it wouldn't have been that
Subhanallah.
perfect connection. Subhanallah.
So back to the physics, you know, the pendulum example. So there's a pendulum that's swinging back and forth, and in mechanical engineering, that's like half of our study, pendulums. It's so boring. No, it's actually interesting. So the pendulum is going back and forth, and here it's zero velocity, but it's maximum potential energy, and it goes back and forth. And you want to make sure when to hit that pendulum at the right time to maximize the impact. So if the pendulum was on this side and I'm trying to hit this side, it won't help. It's gonna hurt my hand. So subhanallah, it's all about, yani, there's always a plan.
Allah Akbar. Let's conclude inshallah with what's one piece of advice to give to young professionals, somebody who already just joined the field. There's one piece that I think a lot of the young professionals need help with, is balancing between their religious commitment and their work. We sometimes get into that cycle of, yes, I need more money, I need more to develop in my career, I need to prove myself to my boss, and sometimes we lack in our salah, we lack in our Ramadan. Given that we are a minority as well, sometimes you're scared to talk to your boss to make something available for you for salah, for example, or time. Or hey, please avoid making meetings on Jumu'ah because I have Jumu'ah prayer. Or hey, I'm actually fasting, so how about, during the months of Ramadan, let's avoid having lunch. So some young professionals who just joined the workforce, they having a struggle, whether that to be, yes, I want to fulfill my commitments, but I can't speak about it because I feel like I'm a minority. Or, sometimes there is the opportunity to talk about it, but then we are taken by
the dominant culture.
Exactly. Yeah.
SubhanAllah. Whoa. Oh, a lot. How many times do you have?
A little bit of a shift here, but
no, but that's important.
Yes,
I'm kidding. We could go on. This could be another discussion. So, Bismillah. So first of all, the first advice to people in that demographic is slow down. Slow down, because coming from somebody who speaks very quickly, needs to slow down. But so let me tell you this. We think that so we have our own thoughts. My boss has his own thoughts, and I assume that I know what are the thoughts in my boss's head, which is not true at all. Because there's many studies in this that my perception of what my kids think about me, my spouse think about me, are completely different. Let alone somebody who you know nothing about, which is your. So you have to understand that you're getting into an environment where the bosses are being taught, or the corporate world are being taught more and more about diversity and inclusion, and that's something that I'm sure it's within your field. So now diversity and inclusion, DEI, diversity, equity and inclusion, there's so many messages that are being taught all over about the importance of people including their whole self, or now a new term is their soul self. So inclusion started with race, and then gender, and then genders, all that stuff that's happening around us. But also recently, religious people felt left out in corporate America. And they started also coming out of the closet. They started also saying that we need to be represented, because 60% of corporate America is religious, conservative Christians who felt that they are excluded because of the dominant culture that was mainly progressive, So they started this religious diversity in business foundation, and they have the annual conference, and they're trying to rate corporate America not only on their diversity in terms of race and gender, but also in terms of how welcoming are they for people from exact religions. So are they providing prayer spaces? Do they allow Bible circles? Do they allow recognize Ramadan? Do they educate their managers about Ramadan and the dip that some Muslims might have in Ramadan? So all of this is becoming mainstream right now. It's picking up. I represented my previous employer, Ford, in this conference, and you see serious effort now. Maybe that effort is because it helps the company bottom line. So maybe it's not fi sabilillah, but at least it's a trendy thing right now. And to be honest, our Arabs used to say ما ضاع حق وراءه مطالب. If you are asking for your rights, your right will never be wasted. So we live in a country, we live in an opportunity, in an industry, in a world that, at least maybe on the superficial side, they're asking us, what do you guys want? If you don't say anything, we don't get anything.
Exactly, 100%.
And there's a lot of us.
Mhm.
And this is where the power of community again comes. You realize you're not
Wow.
alone,
Yeah.
and you can always share a link about religious diversity and freedom at your with your boss. You can make it kind of a lunch and learn thing
Mhm.
where you can invite a speaker to talk about this. There's a lot of opportunities where you are, and even okay, what's the worst thing that could happen? Your boss not being surprised about it. Guess what? Normally, for most people's reaction is thank you for letting me know. I did not know that. I noticed something, Akhi, that's something completely different. When I got one of my kids at work, so my boss back then, he went out of his way. Like it was, honestly, wallahi, it was weird. I think it was my third child, Jannah. My boss went out of his way to tell me, don't worry about work. Just go enjoy life. And I don't want to see you come in this next week. So I think their good corporate environment, good corporate ethics will tell all managers, this is a very stressful time in the life of employees. Make sure that you accommodate them more than they need. Like give them more time. A good employee, a good manager would do that. So people are, and again, I started this by saying, you don't know what's happening in the other person's word.
Exactly.
In his word, he's asking, or she is asking, for the most part, how can I make this person give me a good rating at the end of the year? How can I create more stories, more incidents, so they give me a good rating?
Yeah.
And that I'm assuming that they are very materialistic, very superficial, very opportunistic. And that's kind of the worst case. For the most part, people are friendly.
No.
People want to go home and meet their family and tell a story. Today I helped someone.
No. No.
So Allah Alam, let's have this trust. If we are approaching our corporate life with fear, with anxiety, and this fear is from our religion, which is something that's teaching us لا تخشى في الله لومة لائم, and to be unapologetically Muslim. Subhanallah, again, nowadays, alhamdulillah, we are blessed to live in and experience a lot of freedoms. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah,
Let's conclude it with this, inshallah. MashaAllah, jazakumullah khairan for the wonderful insights and advice. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك العصر ان الانسان في خسر الا الذين امنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. I want to give you a few minutes to rest before your next, because it takes a lot of time.
Blacks, man, that was enjoyable.
That was beautiful.
Make sure it's recorded.
You scared me. لا إله